Hello, this is Erica Reyes with Academic Technology and Creative Services. Today we will go over the steps on how to use the adaptive release feature in SacCT. Adaptive release criteria are applied to items such as exams and course material to make them available using specific rules. For example, you can use adaptive release to make different versions of an assignment available to specific groups of users or specify to release content until a specific grade has been achieved on an earlier assignment. To add adaptive release criteria to an item, first locate and hover over the item. Next, click the gray downward arrow and click Adaptive Release. This will bring up the Adaptive Release page that contains availability options for date, membership or users, grade, and review status. Here you can set one or more adaptive release criteria for an item. You can also use all criteria areas if needed. However, using all criteria areas is not required. Please note that the adaptive release criteria take priority over the test availability exceptions. Under Item 1 Date, select a date and time for the item to be available. This option is typically used to let a student access material that is no longer available to the rest of the class. Under Item 2, Membership, you have the option to allow specific students and/or groups to access the item. If no user is selected under this section, the item will be available to all users in the course. To add a student, type in their SacLink username in the username field. If you do not know their SacLink username, click Browse. The course membership page will come up in a separate window. From this page, click Go to view the class roster. Select the students and click Submit. Another way to search for a student is by their first or last name. Select first name or last name from the field drop-down menu. Then type in their name next to term and click Go. Select the user and then click Submit. To add a group, select the group from the Items to Select box, then click the right arrow to bring them to the Selected Items box. Under Item 3 Grade, you can select one of the grade conditions. User has at least one attempt for this item or enter specific score or percentage value that the student must achieve to be able to access this item. Select the item that needs to be completed from the Select a Grade Center column. Under the Select Condition section, select either score, percent, or percent between and enter a value. For example, in order for a student to access this current item, they need to have scored at least 70% on this earlier assignment. Under Item 4, Review Status, select an item in the course that students will need to review before being able to access this item. To do this, click Browse, then select an item in your course. For example, you may want to add this rule to make sure students access a handout before they take a quiz. Once you are finished, click Submit. Once you have set your adaptive release criteria, enabled adaptive release will appear under the item name. If you still need help or have any questions, feel free to give us a call, email, or visit our website. Thank you for watching.